Thank you. Yes, I should definitely get some applause tonight. So I read recently that they were having a type 2 diabetes seminar at a Golden Corral. Talk about somebody who knows their target audience. That chocolate fountain alone is responsible for half of the adult onset diabetes cases in this country. I can't figure out how they sold it to the manager though. Can you imagine me going in and say, I want to have a seminar here where we teach people to avoid eating refined carbs, fried foods, and sugary desserts. That's the entire Golden Corral menu. So I have this hiking buddy who's in his early 70s and retired. It gets a little annoying hanging out with him and his retired friends sometimes because they all forget I have a job. They'll make plans for Wednesday mornings and then they're mad because I don't show up. They weren't born wealthy. They all had jobs at some point in their lives, but since they retired, it's like they don't even remember that part of their life exists. It's like they think the guy helping them at Home Depot is just a volunteer doing community service for some reason. They have welcomed me into their homes though, and so I've gone to game nights there where I'm the only person under 70 years old, which is kind of weird. When strip poker wraps up about 7:30, I drive everybody home because driving at night is their kryptonite. It's like they're reverse vampires who have to be home before sunset. Unless, of course, they can convince me to drive. I did join them a few times on their mall walking route, which was kind of fun. And it encouraged me to start walking laps around the airport while I'm waiting for flights. I get to play my favorite people watching game at that point, wife or daughter. And then of course there's the sequel, wife or granddaughter. It's getting harder to tell sometimes these days. He doesn't know it yet, but there's a 50-year-old here in Denver whose wife hasn't been born yet. I personally prefer to date older women. My girlfriend's here tonight. She's 2 years older than I am. Hope she doesn't mind me saying that. And she brought a lot of her family with us tonight, so the extra laughs I'm getting are courtesy of them, and certainly not maybe deserved. But appreciate you guys being here. This isn't the life she imagined when we got together a year ago, I'm pretty sure. When she met me, I was a normal guy with a normal job and normal hobbies. And then a few months into it, I sat her down and said, I want to be a stand-up comedian. Not quite sure how she felt about that at that point, but she's been very supportive. And since then, I've dragged her to open mics at bars and breweries and even a vegan pizza place. Not sure why that exists, but it does. I think at this point in my life, I mainly want a companion in my life, so I have somebody to help me fold that stupid fitted sheet that goes on the bed. I mentioned this to a friend of mine who's never been married. And he said, Kyle, you're divorced and single now. Just don't fold the sheets. Who cares? And so I had to explain to him the difference between guys who have never been married and guys who are divorced. When you're divorced, it's like being an ex-Navy SEAL. You've trained and trained and trained for years for things that really didn't seem to matter all that much. But you do it so that when the crap hits the fan, you don't have to think, you just react. That's what marriage is like. After 27 years of training, when that sheet comes out of the dryer, I just react. The great romantic comedy Sleepless in Seattle tells us that a single 40-year-old woman has a better chance of being killed by a terrorist than finding a new mate. My girlfriend must have thought she hit the jackpot when she met this nice guy who seemed normal. And then I dragged her somewhere where she had to sit in the audience while I was on stage and listen to me tell a joke about going to Costco for pizza and gas. So you go to Costco, you get a piece of pepperoni pizza for $2, and the gas is free. And so I look at the reaction on her face now, and I can tell you exactly what she's thinking. Is that terrorist option still on the table? Thank you. That's all I got.